again, hi everyone. My name is Mark Rosenzweig. I'm a patient from West Bloomfield, Michigan. I was diagnosed in 2013, and I was fortunate enough in 2020 to come to Gina Hollenbeck, who was president of ALK-positive at that time. And we formed something called an ALK-TALK. We've had over 60 ALK-TALKs. We've had over 8,000 live viewers and over 45,000 YouTube reviews and hits. So for those of you who do not know how to get to our ALK channel, you can just go to YouTube, push in ALK-positive Inc., and you'll see us. And that's www.youtube.com/ALK lung cancer. So anyways, if you can't catch a recording live, so it wouldn't be recording, be live, you can look at a recording. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Summer Farman, who's my, I guess, partner in crime, and Yvonne Diaz, who's from London. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Mark. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Summer Farman, ALK-positive patient, diagnosed in June of 2020 with stage 4 lung cancer. I serve on the ALK-positive Inc. Board of Directors and also am Mark's sidekick for ALKtALK and work as the ALKtALK program coordinator. And I am so excited to have my friend in person tonight from London, Yvonne Diaz.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm Yvonne Diaz. I'm also an ALK-positive lung cancer patient diagnosed in August 21, and I'm a board member of ALK-positive Inc., and I'm also a co-founder of another charity called Oncogene Cancer Research. We're here coming to you live from Chicago at ASCO. ASCO is the American Society of Clinical Oncology. It's one of the largest gatherings, if not the largest gathering, of all clinical oncology. And it's about 47,000 attendees.
Huge,
it's just out off the scale. So we're really excited that ALK-positive has been here. Kirk and Nancy were actually here with us just yesterday, I think it was, gosh. And we held our first ever global scientific advisory board. So this is really exciting, where our medical committee was presenting to like a who's who of all these key opinion leaders on what we're doing across all of our medical committees.
We were fangirling out for all of you in the community. It was amazing to be a fly on the wall and listen to these brilliant minds at work, brainstorming and finding out the best way to extend our lives, minimize side effects, all of that. It was amazing.
Phenomenal. And so we're really excited that today is also the second day of ALK-positive Awareness Month. And that was something we introduced last year for the first time in honor of Gina Hollenbeck. I don't know if you want to cover a bit more.
Yeah, so this was, we know that Gina was a force. She helped, you know, make this organization what it is today, with the help, obviously, of many others that have come before her. So in honor of them and of Gina, those of you that are diagnosed now and those that will come after us, ALK-positive awareness is for you. We want to spread the word. Anyone with lungs can get lung cancer, and we also want to fundraise for a fabulous cause, which is why we're here.
Yeah, and actually, Kitty, if you could launch the slides, we'll just talk about what's in store for tonight. So hopefully many of you saw the fantastic announcement we put out just a couple of weeks ago with Breakthrough Cancer, and we're super excited to have a number of Breakthrough Cancer leadership with us this evening, but most especially their chief scientific officer, Jesse Boehm, who you see here in the agenda. We're going to be shortly handing over to Kirk, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our relationship with Breakthrough Cancer. Before that, though, we're going to play a little video from
Dr. Ken
Culver, who sadly we're working him so hard he can't even be with us tonight. And after Jesse's presentation, we're also going to hear from Nancy Prensati, who's going to talk to us a bit more about what we're doing this month, and Katie Delaney is going to take us through all our exciting plans for fundraising and social media and so much more. So,
and how you can be a part of ALK-positive Awareness Month in general, as small of a part as you want to take to on a much larger scale.
Whatever works for you. So let's hear from Dr. Ken Culver. We managed to film him. a sound? I'm not hearing the sound.
Hold on, Ken.
Yep. Hold on, let's see. Let's try it one more time, and if we have an issue.
Ken Culver here, speaking to you from ASCO 2024 in Chicago, Illinois. It's another amazing meeting with about 47,000 registrants here who are talking about all kinds of cancer. But I have to say, yesterday, ALK research and the benefit of lorlatinib stole the whole show. We are invested in research. We want to make sure that the progress of lorlatinib is not the last big thing that happens at ALK. We are therefore partnering with a group called Breakthrough Cancer, BTC for short, who's made a commitment to work with the top ALK researchers around the United States and beyond to focus energy, money, and science into solving the problem of curing ALK-positive lung cancer. It's an amazing opportunity for us as patients, caregivers, employees of ALK-positive to join together and to push forward in a much faster rate, solving the problem of minimal residual disease, because when that's solved, we'll have a cure.
Okay, well, I hope you could hear that. If not, it'll definitely be up on the replay later. So really, with no further ado, we'll turn it over to Kirk to tell you all about why we did this relationship.
Thanks, Yvonne and Summer. And yes, you could hear it, and it did sound great. And Ken is always great. And there were, for those of you that follow ALK-positive on social media, there have been a couple of other quotes, videos of him talking from ASCO. So I highly encourage you to listen to him. There's a lot of good nuggets, sound bites that Ken really highlights the reason we're there and the work we're doing. I'm Kirk Smith. I'm currently the president, serve on the board, and serve alongside Nancy and Summer and a lot of other awesome people, and Nancy Pratsadi, who's on here also. Nancy, jump in anytime you feel like it, and on what I'm going to just show them for a little bit here. But Nancy's also going to follow up with y'all with a couple of things on some of what Summer and Yvonne were talking about just now, and what Ken was talking about. I'm going to show you just a few minutes of what ALK-positive and the collaboration with Breakthrough Cancer is, and who Breakthrough Cancer is, and just a few nuggets. Jesse can do a much better story of this and may correct me on some of the information that I provide. But I really felt, and I've had this question from several that they want to know, where did this come from? Who is Breakthrough Cancer, and what this is? And so I think giving y'all a little background is really interesting to me. It's a fascinating story and what they're doing. So excited to be a part of it. So I'm going to share. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. Sorry, I'll walk through it like this, and you just have to see the slides if that works for you.
Yep.
So they were founded in 2021 off of a extraordinary gift of $250 million from its founders as a matching program, and that was the Goodwin family out of Richmond, Virginia. And as I understand it correctly, and Jesse and Terry, please correct me if I'm wrong, but initially it was a $100 million gift, and then the remaining 150 is a match, pretty much a match challenge to be met for the rest of the research. And Breakthrough Cancer's goal is to empower outstanding research and physicians to both intercept and find cures for the deadliest cancers. And Breakthrough's initial focus was on 4 intractable cancers that share common features. And those are low 5-year survival rates, little to no early detection, and then lack of recent progress or innovation in treatment. And those 4 cancers are glioblastoma, ovarian cancer, pancreatic, and acute myelogenous leukemia, or AML. With that, so how did ALK-positive get involved? We are not one of those 4 cancers that I just listed, so you might be wondering how we're a part of this. And that really came by a lot of lobbying, behind the scenes efforts by ALK patients that led them to begin this research program. And some of those are on here. I know Emily Benanzi, who is one that we really need to have a big thank you to. Emily is on this Zoom. I'm not sure if Mark Muscovich is, but Mark was a part of that, and a few others. This is some of that group working with some of the breakthrough cancer team early in the process, and some of the top researchers that are involved. And I'll give you a list of who some of those are. I think, yeah, there's Mark Muscovich, if you can see my cursor down here near the front. And you probably recognize a lot of the faces that are the researchers in these groups from, here's Jesse over here, and here's Dr. Lovely, here's Dr. Lamb, here's Dr. Lynn. And I think this is this Chiarli in the background? So, these are all people, researchers, oncologists who've been really a part of our community. And mentioning the scientific advisory board we just had the other night, that was part of that group. So it's some of the best there are. And here's that list, that, at least as far as I know it, that are involved. I highlighted a couple of names because these are ones that have been part of our ALK family for a while. And so you probably recognize them. They either were funded their research, they've been on ALK Talks, they've been speakers at the summits, they are on our scientific advisory board. They are, Chiarli is doing a vaccine research that we started funding back in 2018, and is going to be a part of this breakthrough cancer project. So there are things that it's interesting to me to watch what we've been a part of early on, before breakthrough existed, or we even knew that could be a part of this in the early, as this project moves along. Their vision, and this is what Jesse, I'm sure, will talk a good bit about, is to target and eradicate minimal residual disease. And if most of you are like me, you're wondering what the heck that means, and explaining that. So I'm hoping that Jesse will cover a little bit of that. The last two things I'd like to point out before we hand it over is, I thought this was a great quote from Mark Muscovich. And if y'all have not read Mark's patient spotlight that's on our blog right now and is in our newsletter, I thought this was really talking about the power of what the possibility is here of this partnership. And this, as he calls it, this return on investment multiplier effect, in which impacts of given investment by ALK-positive will be multiplied by the collaborative efforts of hundreds of cancer researchers within BTC's affiliated institutions. And I think that's something that's really about what we're talking about here, and what the power of this can be with this part of it, and also with our with the fundraising campaign that we have going here. So last, I'm asking you to, I want to remind you, we have a goal of 500,000 raised during this month. We already, and Nancy might mention this again, but we've already achieved 110,000 before we even started the month. So momentum builds momentum. So we're hoping that y'all see this and share it with your friends. And then lastly, I'm going to recommend a little bit of reading. And so two things I'd like you to recommend is go to Breakthrough Cancer's website and see what they're doing, and all these other projects. I think it's incredible work. It's very inspiring. It gives you more clarity. I hope will give you more clarity on how that might translate to us. And then I always recommend you read our patient spotlights, because they're always so good. But this one that just came out with Mark Muscovich is so relevant to what we're talking about here, and all that the medical committee is doing, not just breakthrough cancer, but so much that we talked about with our scientific advisory board this past Friday, and all that was happening in all these meetings that we were having at ASCO. And I also want to give, and Nancy, I'm going to hand it over to you, but I want to give one shout out to Summer, because she's leaving this to go she's a speaker at Foundation Medicine's banquet or dinner this evening. So I don't think you even mentioned that, Summer, but certainly need to be a big shout out that Summer's all over the place at ASCO.
Thank you.
Nancy, do you want to add anything?
No, I don't have anything to add at this point. I'm just really grateful and excited for this opportunity. I'm keeping my talking to a minimum this evening. I have the obligatory spring cough, so I don't want to share that with all of you, even through the screen. But we're so very excited and thankful for this opportunity, and to partner with Breakthrough Cancer, and thank you, Jesse, and Terry, and John for joining us tonight to talk about it more. And we look forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, so with that, I'll hand it over to Jesse.
All right, great. Thank you so much. It's really amazing to be here. This is just an incredible gathering of folks that I know are all rowing in the same boat. You know, we had this very simple premise when we began this new foundation 3 years ago, and it was, what if every researcher anywhere in the country who wanted to row in the same boat to actually work together and solve a problem could actually do so? Almost if everyone was part of the same research lab working together in what we now call a radically collaborative new way. And I think the Breakthrough Cancer experiment really highlights something that many of us have been hoping for at this moment in the nation's history as we think about really approaching cancer. So I'm the Chief Science Officer of Breakthrough Cancer. I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues here today. There's 20 of us now, really mission-driven folks trying to change the face of cancer in the United States and beyond. And as Kirk said, you know, we're just really honored to have the opportunity to work collaboratively with all of you as we try to bring this new philosophy of radical collaboration to this very challenging disease of ALK-positive lung cancer. I wanted to spend the first couple of minutes just pulling back the wool a little bit and talking a little bit about the philosophy of why doesn't every researcher everywhere in the country simply work together in the way that we all expect that they do? And when is it appropriate to bring those researchers together to do something transformative? I'm going to argue that there's 3 essential ingredients to deliver breakthroughs for cancer in the way that we imagine. One is it has to be the right moment. I think obviously we've all been shaken by the pandemic in many ways. Cancer researchers have too, and have learned how to work together and collaborate and share in a fundamentally new way that just really wasn't possible 5 or 10 years ago. There's also a series of emergent technology and data science revolutions that make it possible to go after new audacious challenges today that just really weren't possible 5, 10 years ago. And of course, the revolution in machine learning that all of us hear about every day is one such example. So this is clearly the right moment to do something special together. At this right moment, we also have to bring together the right people. We just heard from Kirk about these amazing people across the country. We can't just bring together any researchers. We have to bring together really bold scientists that are unanchored to the conventional ways of doing things, not asking, how can I get the next grant? How can I do the next thing? But, you know, what is it going to take to act? Muted? Did I just get muted?
Yeah, you were on mute. Yeah.
So the right moment and the right people, and of course there needs to be the right environment. We can't just say collaborate. We actually have to work together to unburden scientists from all the bureaucracy that tends to get in their way, to really align incentives. And that's a big part of what Breakthrough Cancer tries to do, because 90% of cancer researchers desperately want to work together frictionlessly, but there are so many constraints in the system as it stands today in the United States, it's very difficult to do so. So at this moment, we try to bring together these 3 components to usher in a new philosophy of team science. And kind of playfully, we call this like hashtag radical collaboration, like radical honesty. You know, we have to collaborate in a new way, and we can't just say we're collaborating by taking money and dividing it into pieces and assuming those pieces fit back together. We actually have to work together differently. Our goal is to fundamentally transform this disease. The same number of cancer patients pass away every day of cancer, as did at the peak of the pandemic, when scientists, public-private partnerships got launched. The whole nation worked together to try to usher in COVID vaccines. We think that same level of urgency is needed day in and day out to transform cancer. I don't need to tell this community that, but I think it's clear that we sometimes, in many circles, lose the sense that cancer needs to be addressed with the same level of urgency as COVID. So we ask scientists and all of you, what will it really take to transform the status quo? What's the status quo for how patients experience disease today, and what does the future really need to look like? We spend many months working with scientific teams to figure out what an ultimate ambition is for this part of the field. 10 or 20 years from now, what is the experience of a patient with ALK-positive lung cancer going to look like? And what's actually getting in the way from pushing a button and ushering in that experience today? We then work with scientists, just as we did with all of the leaders that Kirk showed on the previous slide. What are the barriers that are preventing us from flipping a switch and doing all of this ultimate ambition today? And once we identify these barriers, what's the project that might begin to be launched to de-risk these barriers, showcase that they're really not barriers anymore at all, and thus would de-risk our ability to bring in new partners, new resources, and scale whatever solutions are created so that the ultimate ambition can be achieved. That's the way that Breakthrough Cancer works with researchers across the country to try to think about what are the appropriate projects to tackle. It's a little bit different than how many scientists often think about what projects are they going to pursue. They often are responding to a funder where the funder says, oh, please write a grant in this following way, and then the researcher writes that grant. And here we are trying to unlock opportunity by stimulating more blue sky thinking. Once these new ideas are developed, we feel that the current model for how science is done will be insufficient. Researchers at many institutions, such as the 5 founding cancer centers that are part of Breakthrough Cancer, but also many others, collaborate, but have to collaborate by working across the very difficult walls of their institutions, sharing data, sharing resources. And so the typical model for team science today doesn't really involve working together in exactly the way we would like, but rather emulates more of a divide and conquer sort of approach. The Breakthrough Cancer approach creates a new virtual laboratory called a TeamLab, in which researchers really work at the center of their institutions. We at Breakthrough Cancer try to facilitate a lot of losing the bureaucracy to make this model work. And these team labs can flexibly now interact with many researchers beyond those 5 founding cancer centers so that many people can work together flexibly to really achieve the premise of radical collaboration. It's an experiment, and an experiment that we hope that if we get right, we could help to teach many other organizations how to run team lab-like science. We've launched 8 team labs thus far, investing about $100 million to try to transform the diseases that Kirk showed before. And the goals of these current team labs are to change the course of cancer by intercepting cancer as early as possible, or in the residual disease state. Once the tumor has been removed or been treated, there are often some cells remaining. Sometimes they're invisible to clinicians, but they're there. And we know those are the seeds that end up breeding metastasis or drug-resistant cancer. Can we intercept before it's too late by going after cancer in the residual disease state? We have several teams working on that concept. And as I'll mention in a second, that's a big part of the concept of the lung ALK team lab that's being launched in the next couple of months. A second concept of existing team labs involves speeding up drug approval by learning in patients as quickly as possible. What does learning in patients mean? It means giving drugs as quickly as possible and then taking the biospecimens donated by those patients taking the drugs and deploying really cutting-edge molecular technologies on those samples to really ask the question, was the therapeutic idea correct? Did the drug get where we thought it got? Did the cells change in the right way and die in the right way? Can the human be the model system instead of only doing things in a mouse or a cell in a dish? And to be as iterative as possible, we think will speed up drug approval. And then finally, to change the way biopharma and academic researchers interact together. I'm joined by my colleague, John Grabenstatter here, who directs our Biopharma Alliance program. And we think that solving these challenging cancers is not an academic exercise, but an exercise that's going to require many people to work together. So that's a bit of the philosophy of how Breakthrough Cancer came to be and how we approach team science in a different format. Now I wanted to pivot for 5 or 6 minutes and say a bit about the new lung initiative that we're really proud to launch in the next month or two together with ALK-positive. I'll give you a tiny bit of background. I'm sure this audience doesn't need a slide like this, but of course, we've witnessed just an amazing revolution in how many lung cancers are treated. Just in the last 10 or 20 years, we've seen new targeted therapies emerge where particular mutations like the ALK gene are found to be drivers programming cancers as they grow, and drug companies have gotten quite good at building drugs to block those drivers. We call those targeted therapies. We've also seen the rise of teaching the immune system how to fight a cancer like a lung cancer and eradicate disease. And these two paradigms have really transformed cancer care in many ways. But for the clinicians on the call, and for many of you, I'm sure, the experience isn't so simple as to analyze the tumor and get a magical drug and definitively be cured forever. I think our clinicians tell us that they're lamenting the challenge of really just still not being able to definitively cure lung cancers, especially ALK-positive cancers. And these are example scans from a patient of one of the clinicians on the team. You can see this is a section of the patient. This is an MRI image, and the details aren't that important, but you can see a part of the image that should be opaque is actually taken up by a lung tumor here. And it's at this stage where the clinician gives a drug, the tumor shrinks. Can you see my cursor? Great. The tumor shrinks. There's a partial response. The patient's feeling quite a bit better. But you can see that there's still disease left over. This is called residual disease. And even though the patient might feel quite a bit healthier, it can sometimes be only a matter of time until that tumor, unfortunately, comes back. And it's at that stage where we often try to tackle the disease by testing new therapies and new approaches. The concept that this lung TeamLab honed in on after about a year's worth of brainstorming was that we can't just sit around and wait. We actually have to understand this state of disease called minimal residual disease. When there are still cells around, sometimes you can see them on a scan and sometimes you can't. But it's at this state where we have to give increasingly personalized treatments because there's a small number of cells, and this gives us the best chance of cures. And today's technologies are now sensitive enough to evaluate whether those therapies are or not working. So we might be able to prevent resistant disease if we can really go after MRD. But the challenge is, what is MRD? Why? This seems such an obvious kind of description. And of course, there are many initiatives that study MRD in many ways. This is not a brilliant new idea, but I think focusing exclusively on MRD and trying to bring drug discovery and drug deployment to this MRD state at this scale for a disease like ALK disease is novel. We don't understand the biology of this state. We can see some cells, but what are those cells doing and why are they there? We don't often go back and sample. Sometimes there's not a clinical reason to go back and sample, but because we don't sample, we don't know. Clinical trials aren't run in that state, and drug companies run their trials at this later state. And so we're not giving patients sometimes the best chance. And finally, we haven't had the right technology. As I mentioned, we need technologies that are sensitive enough to evaluate it. And this is important because patients, over 97% of patients with lung cancer and ALK-positive lung cancer actually still have a small amount of residual disease. So we think this can include a large number of patients. So this new team is proposing 3 pretty audacious goals. One is to use really innovative genomic technologies. And there's a new type of genomic technology that looks at every single cell one at a time in its context, in its spatial context of where each cell is and who it's talking to and how the immune cells and the tumor cells are working together. That new technology has just begun to be deployed, but is not being systematically used to analyze how an ALK-positive tumor like this is actually clicking at the molecular level. And so this team is proposing to transform our understanding of the biology of residual disease by deploying these new single-cell spatial technologies to understand exactly what's happening in many, many patients. That's really exciting, we think, technologically. A second goal is to invite as many patients as possible to contribute their samples, to contribute their experiences, to contribute their data. so that we can build a tremendous amount of information on the trajectory of ALK-positive lung cancers so that we can understand how residual disease really fits in. And this hasn't been launched yet, but as this gets launched, this will eventually represent a remote consent protocol, a website where patients can consent and participate and be part of a solution like this. It's quite important for breakthrough cancer and for the scientists involved to make this whole concept very patient-centric and to make sure that our patient community, your community, is really helping to drive this entire initiative. And the goal is to build information that can be shared freely with everyone. We don't care whether breakthrough cancer is name and lights. Our goal is not to fulfill our own egos. Our goal is to solve the problem. And we think by solving the problem, the way to solve the problem is by giving away all the information, sharing everything radically with anyone that wants it, and lifting up the entire research community in doing so. And the final slide I have is a slide that describes a clinical trial protocol in which new agents, starting with cancer vaccines, can be evaluated in this residual disease setting. And you heard about Roberto Chiarle. He's building one type of cancer vaccine. We've had a number of very productive conversations with biopharma partners. You know about Moderna, one of the companies that helped to develop COVID vaccines using a really amazing new technology of mRNA vaccination. The details aren't that important, but these companies are now getting excited to build new agents for ALK-positive lung cancer because this community has coalesced across the country. And this is easier than every researcher on their own trying to petition biopharma to get involved. So we think this will be a master protocol. By that, we mean a protocol in which many therapeutic agents can be evaluated in this MRD setting. So that's all I have. This group includes researchers from a number of different organizations, and we want to ensure that patients everywhere also feel like they can be radically collaborative and be part of the team as well. We're launching in about a month with a 1-year pilot experiment to help the team coalesce and map some of the challenges that they're trying to evaluate, new technologies, new areas, these biopharma partnerships. And after this 1-year pilot year, we aim to expand to what will likely be a full 4-year, likely $20 million activity. And Breakthrough Cancer will contribute, and we're building a coalition of a number of partners, and we're really, really proud and excited that ALK-positive is one of them. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions, and maybe my colleagues, Terry McGowan, who leads our development team, and John Grabenstatter, who, as I mentioned, supports our biopharma interactions, can help me answer any questions that the community has. Thanks again for having us.
Thank you so much. Really great to learn more about your radical collaboration approach, which does seem super novel in the industry. So I think we're really excited, obviously, when you're ready to talk a little bit more about who's involved in that, and to go a little bit more into the depth around MRD. What a staggering number to hear. 97% of patients have MRD, which really just shows you what a serious problem that is. So we can take it into the Q&A and go through. We've been seeing a few questions come in. We have one around liquid biopsies saying that often they're not detecting everyone's cancer, right? Not everyone sheds, not everyone's a shedder, right? I think is the phraseology there. So what, how are we going to measure this, I guess? And I don't know if you have that.
It's a really important question. Maybe I'll just define what a liquid biopsy is. I know the person asking the question knows, but in case others don't know, this is the hope that one can take a sample of a blood sample and infer the molecular makeup of the lung cancer by monitoring with multiple blood samples instead of having to go back and sample the lung tumor time and time again. This is one of the fundamental questions that this team is trying to answer. When we try to use a blood biopsy to understand lung cancer, one size doesn't fit all. There are many different blood biopsy tests, each with different levels of sensitivity. And the newest tests involve sequencing the entirety of the genome of one patient, building a personalized assay to look very specifically for what are the broken bits of DNA in that one patient and monitoring those in the blood over time. And doing that approach, we think, will give a heightened level of sensitivity so that patients who had gotten an older blood biopsy test and were told they were MRD negative, it's possible those will be seen now as MRD positive, which will be a good thing so that the clinician can track that over time. So one of the things the team is doing this year is comparing and contrasting a number of different blood biopsy technologies together and sharing all of that information. And John here is working to broker a number of partnerships with biopharma to make that possible. It's a great question.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And someone else was asking, and I'm not sure if we're prepared to answer this at the moment, but if you gave a blood sample to one of these doctors as a part of the study, I guess I don't know if you have that information.
Yeah, I think we'll have answers in the soon. The remote consent protocol, and this is really being championed by Jess Lynn, is being built to facilitate all of this. Of course, it's easier for new blood samples to be shared in the way that we need. When we're dealing with retrospective blood samples, sometimes there can be paperwork that gets in the way. So we work very carefully to try to set things up, and we'll be in touch with this community as soon as Jess and her team know exactly how individual patients can be involved.
Okay, wonderful.
I see another question that's related about material transfer agreements, which you know, as many of the group know, are kind of a legal type of agreement that institutions often require so that biospecimens from one organization can flow to the others. This is one of the reasons we have a number of staff members at Breakthrough Cancer. We have a contracts lead that works collaboratively with the BD and tech transfer leads at all of the institutions that are involved. That whole group gets together and works collaboratively to make sure that those types of agreements don't get in the way. We're not quite there where we can snap our fingers and have everything magically fly, but in forming this TeamLab, there will be a master MTA, material transfer agreement, so that any sample funded as part of this activity can flow frictionlessly across the entire TeamLab, and all of that data can be released into the public domain. One of the things I neglected to mention, but probably should have, is we've made a separate $25 million commitment to data science and to creating infrastructure to facilitate data sharing. And so this entire initiative will leverage that separate $25 million commitment, which cuts across many disease areas. And that helps researchers share data and release it publicly. It doesn't always work perfectly, but we think we have the best chance to do this as frictionlessly as possible.
That would certainly be a big help. As you're seeing in the chat, we're all coming up against some of these issues, and obviously overcoming that is really important. I want to come back to a question that was also asked earlier and just repeated here. We do see we're not always able to offer trials like this to everyone. So how do we address health disparities and research? And I don't know if you're thinking about that as part of this collaboration.
Absolutely, not just as part of this collaboration, but as part of the whole Breakthrough Cancer enterprise to begin with. One of the principles that Breakthrough Cancer was launched on is the principle of equity. Equity as it relates to team labs, gender, ethnicity, seniority, et cetera, and equity as it relates to diversity of biospecimens, research collaborations, and also access so that researchers everywhere patients everywhere can gain access to the types of outcomes of the research being pursued. So each team pursues that in a little bit of a different way. But in this particular project, I think there will be a few different avenues for this. One is the use of blood biopsies itself. And I know that may sound a bit counterintuitive, but if we can show, or the team can show, that a blood sample can be used to track and evaluate disease, we think that will democratize access to getting engaged in these types of projects, because you can get a blood sample at CVS or at any sample at any pharmacy. It can be sometimes a bit harder to go to a major medical center. So that's one of the reasons that we like liquid biopsies. The second concept involves this remote consent protocol. One of the reasons that the team responded to our urging to think about health equity was to launch this remote protocol so that it wasn't just patients at MGH or at MD Anderson or these other centers, but they wanted to be sure that any patient anywhere could contribute. Now, that doesn't mean that any patient anywhere can get to one of the major medical centers to join one of the trials. We're still working on that part of it. But in terms of contributing biospecimens, consenting, and being involved in the project, that's a second direction to go. And we're constantly thinking about other ways to help. As this project gets launched, this will be part of a larger activity. We call it Breakthrough Cancer for All. And this is a series of ongoing conversations with health equity leaders across the country that work as advisors with each of the teams to try to push their thinking on new ways to approach health equities within the contours of each research program. So, Ruby, I'll have to get back to you with all of the details, but it's a really important question.
We really appreciate your answer there, and that's all great to hear. We had another question, and again, let us know if you can answer this. It's more around the collaboration of the institution, both academic and clinical, specifically also around the vaccine studies. Is there anything more you could say around that?
Yeah, maybe I'll say a couple of things, then I might turn it over to John, who's I think been working through the initial parts of these collaborations. I think when we think about working with biopharma, we want to make sure those partnerships create solutions that can go readily into the public domain. And we want to make sure that the contours of the collaboration both fit into the needs of the academic institutions and the need of the partners. So we play a role to facilitate those interactions and to set up contracting as seamless as possible, as streamlined as possible, but also to ensure that there aren't different agreements struck between different institutions. John, do you want to say a little bit more about the initial kind of philosophy that you're trying to lead the institutions with?
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. So we're approaching this on a case-by-case basis, but when there's been philanthropic dollars invested into research, we think that there should be some participation in that philanthropic organization in downstream economics, and so that's what we'd be looking for in this case, given that Breakthrough Cancer would be funding a portion of a trial. But I'd just like to mention that this trial is really incredible because Moderna is going to be building a custom vaccine specifically for the Breakthrough Cancer ALK-positive team. So this is really, I think, a first that I've ever seen, where you can get a pharmaceutical company to start a project for a nonprofit organization.
So we're really enthusiastic about what this will look like, but John's right. We're asking company partners to contribute. We're ensuring that the downstream economics kind of benefit everyone in the right way, but each case is a bit different. So we can talk more about that. That hasn't been inked yet, but we have letters of intent from the partners who want to work together.
Wonderful. We have a couple of questions here, some participants from Canada, but it does also beg the question, we serve a worldwide population, so wonder what your plans are for outside the US.
Yes, I think scientifically, of course, the team wants to ensure that everyone can contribute. The details of consenting and biospecimen moving across federal lines, across international lines, are a little bit more complicated. So I believe the team has a staged approach of first launching here in the US before thinking about doing it beyond. But I'll make sure that Jess and Christine and the other members of the team get back to the community with more details on exactly the timeline of that type of response.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
I see a couple of questions also about the University of Michigan initiative, which is important. We've, as I said before, the goal of this initiative is not to have Breakthrough Cancer's name at lights. We just want to help solve the problem or the problems wherever they may be. So our goal is to facilitate as much collaboration as possible. We've had some initial interactions with the University of Michigan team. They've been great. And I think there's a desire to work together. We don't know the details of what that would look like yet. With teams like this, it's quite important to give the team just a little bit of time to work together, to build culture, to understand how this group works together before you start expanding to everyone, because then you move too quickly into this divide and conquer sort of world. So I think we're likely to launch with the team we have here. give them sort of 6 months to kind of get to know each other and figure out how things work. And I think at that time it'll be appropriate to think about additional kind of partnerships. But yeah, we would love in the fullness of time to have everyone part of a national TeamLab that really works collaboratively. We just want to make sure the science really sits at the center as opposed to, any institution or organization. The science has to come first.
I have a general question for you. You mentioned TKIs, targeted therapies, and you mentioned immunotherapy, vaccinations, let's say. When the timeline of when all this might come together, number one, and number two is the other pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, Genentech, and others who provide us with TKIs. How are they in working with you with spine information, let's say?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too early to tell, Mark. I think we're sharing all this information with this community, but none of these pharma deals have been inked yet. So we want to be sure that this community keeps this information within itself. Each of these collaborations will be focused on clinical trials in the residual disease state, and that might be on the mission path for certain biopharma partners. It might not be on the path. So I think one of the things John is doing is working to figure out which other partners might fit the bill. Those will likely involve not just vaccine developers, but there's this whole area of biology about how cells shift states. It's called transcriptional states. They kind of morph into one state and the next, and there's new drugs that target that. There's obviously other types of therapies beyond vaccines, more targeted therapies. We in the team are equal opportunity when it comes to which partners and which therapies, but we're going to try to launch this trial one arm at a time. The partnership is being finalized this year. The TeamLab is we're getting the paperwork together now. We think it's going to launch in the next 6 to 8 weeks. The clinical trial agreements and the partnership documents are being developed. And as John mentioned, Moderna is an initial partner we'll be working with. We'd like to finish those up by the end of this calendar year. That's a pretty aggressive timeline. It's possible it'll take another couple of months. And I think if all goes well, the trial could open early next year. And that would be the first hopefully of a number of arms of these trials. And we'll keep the community in the loop about which arm is opening at which institutions at which time courses. It's more important to us to get it right so that whatever is built in the beginning can scale than it is to rush too quickly, and launch something only to realize we did something wrong and the data can't be shared in the right way. So we're trying to be slow and steady, Mark, but I do think by early next year, we should have the first arm launched, especially if we can finalize the Moderna agreement.
Great. Thank you.
Jesse, I have a feeling we could ask you questions all evening long, and we know you are at ASCO.
We can say.
And we do have Summer's speech coming up very soon. Maybe just one last question that I saw that we didn't get to was about sharing back patient-specific information, genome results of drug testing, et cetera. Any thinking now if that information can go back to patients? It seems like it's not always possible.
Yes, return of results is a really important topic and a very complicated topic, as this community knows. So I don't have the right answer to that prepared today, only because I know how fraught of a question that is.
Yeah.
But I think we in the team believe in the same things that this community does, that patients who contribute should be kept in the loop and ideally should get all the information back. We also recognize that by combining a lot of information, you can commercialize drugs and make successes. And if you share everything back on a one-by-one basis, sometimes you can undermine that. So it's complicated. We'll make sure the team talks about this in great detail and keeps this community in the loop about what happens in what order. But I think the initial project doesn't have return of results as an initial goal, but that isn't to say that there's anything wrong with that concept. It's a wonderful concept and should be continued to evaluate, but we should continue.
That's great. And we appreciate you listening to us and hearing, what we desire, and you can feed that back in. Again, thank you so much for taking the time from here you are at ASCO and doing so much. So we appreciate that. And obviously this is the first of what we hope to be many other ALK talks where we can go into further details as you do make progress. So from here, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, we will also have a recording of the Q&A. So if there was anything that we missed, we can always circle back to keep our community abreast as we're able to. So.
Yep. And Summer and Yvonne, we want to make sure that the community feels like it can and get answers. We're going to have a dedicated staff member to work collaboratively with the whole team and all the project managers on this project. And we'll set up a mechanism where people can ask questions and get answers as fast as possible, collaborating with you guys. So we don't want you to have to wait for the webinars, to get information.
That's even
Fabulous.
better. That's amazing. Thank you so much again for your time. We'll let you get on with the rest of your evening. We're going to
Yes.
leave you also in a second here. So we're going to hand it over to Nancy and to Katie to run you through our plans for ALK Positive Awareness Month. And we really hope you're going to be taking part and supporting this valuable project, and just ALK Positive really creating more awareness around that. So thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you all for being here. And yeah, let's go ALK Positive Awareness Month. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thanks a bunch.
Good luck, Summer.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you to everyone from Breakthrough Cancer. That presentation was amazing. And to Kirk for sharing with us, how we came to be a part of this incredible initiative. It's really exciting. We want to get to Katie, who's going to tell us what we can do as a community. But I want to share with you, many of you probably already know, last year we had a record-breaking year for fundraising. It was quite spectacular, but we all know how much money it takes to raise money for research. This is our first year where we have really got a concerted effort in June, and first time we've ever raised money for a specific project, which I think is a really exciting one. It should generate a lot of excitement. As Kirk shared, we have 110,000 already towards the 500,000. We have 110,000 match committed. We also have a couple people who have shared emails with Kirk and myself with some donations that are looking pretty exciting if they are actually happen. So I guess I'm just going to turn this over to Katie, except to say that we also as a team have a lot more stuff planned to help keep this momentum going. We'll have newsletters coming out specifically with information about fundraisers, tips and techniques, social media opportunities. And we have a really cool and unique direct mailer coming out. So watch for that in your mailboxes. If you've ever donated, you will receive one. It'll go to a pretty big group of our community that has donated in the past. And I think it's a powerful piece, and hopefully will encourage people to donate that way as well. So I'll turn over to Katie so that we can get to her really cool presentation before people need to start leaving.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Well, for those of you who know me yet, my name is Katie Delaney, and I work as the development manager for ALK-positive Incorporated. Behind the scenes, we've been working hard to elevate your fundraising abilities and experience with us. So we switched from Kindful to QGive. So what that means is our fundraising platform where some of you may have created an individualized page with a custom link that you've then shared on social media, email blasts, or with friends and family, will now be inactive, and we are asking you to re-sign up on our new platform that can be found under the donate button of ALKpositive.org with Fundraise with ALK. So like everybody has mentioned, we're raising $500,000 through the month of June in honor of ALK Positive Awareness Month and in celebration of our $2 million commitment with Breakthrough Cancer. We've already raised $110,000 towards this goal, and we are asking the community to either donate, fundraise with us, or advocate. There are many ways to collab for a cure, and we hope you find one that works for you. To donate, you can head to www.alkpositive.org, and on the top navigation bar to the right, you'll see a donate button. hover over that donate button and you'll see a page with ways to give and a fundraise with ALK positive button, which will then sign you up for a fundraising page where you can upload photos, a bio. If you're hosting an event, you can then put those event details on there. On the fundraising page, you'll see a donate button and then a fundraise. If you click that button, you'll be able to start signing up with your registration. Upon your registration, you will receive an email with your login credentials and that custom link that you can then share with friends and family. We are also asking to help advocate. We've created these social media cards that labeled My Reasons to Collab for a Cure. And you can support this initiative by submitting a photo to networking@alkpositive.org through an email, and just with a photo and your first and last name. If you'd like to share some details with who's in the photo with you, it helps us create that story online. And with these cards, you can then either share on your social media pages through Facebook. You can also add these to that personal fundraising page to help get things going. To request that social media card, you'll provide a photo, either an emotive shot of you living your best life with the people you love or doing the things you enjoy. And you just send that to networking@alkpositive.org. So you have your fundraising page, you have your social media card. We are recommending you host a month-long campaign. Starting with sharing the social media card with your friends and family, you can then take your custom link and track your donations with a live thermometer. We also have a resource page on the fundraising dashboard once you log in that will share campaign updates, tips and tricks about ALK positive, along with some fundraising hacks that you can try out throughout the month. We also have social media cards that you can then post directly to your card. We'll also throughout the month of June be posting these cards on our social media page, but also the program initiatives and more research projects that we will be working on all year long. So again, to start fundraising, you just head to alkpositive.org. On the donate button, you'll elevate your cursor over it and there will be a fundraise with ALK positive. You'll click there and start your registration. And if you have any questions at all, you can contact me directly at katie.delaney@alkpositive.org or fundraising@alkpositive.org.
Maybe I'm just curious, is your slideshow going to be on the website at all, or?
Yep, and then also in those resource page of the dashboard of your fundraising page as well.
Nancy or Kirk, do you have any other comments before I turn over to Dana Carrito?
No, just go research. I hope everybody will, not whether you can contribute financially or just contribute by sharing with your community. We all appreciate it. I think this is definitely a really exciting and worthwhile project.
Great.
Yeah, I would just say the same thing, Mark, just echoing Nancy and just really appreciating everybody. And I know that was a lot that Jesse was throwing at us and did a great job of presenting. But we will continue to give y'all more information, and I'm hoping that soon we will have pretty much a slideshow like that we can share with y'all and have on the website so y'all can download it and read it at your leisure. And we really, the big part of this is we always want to educate our community as much as possible so you understand what's happening out there and know what's happening.
They will be speaking at the summit, y'all. So if they have updates by then, those will be recorded and shared. That's 6 weeks away, 5 weeks away. So, hopefully we'll have something really interesting and exciting by then as well.
What's amazing to me, and I don't know if this came up in ASCO, but how organized of a machine that we are at ALK-positive Incorporated. And I want to thank you for representing us and being out there and helping us move the needle, because we've definitely moved the needle. And Kirk and myself are testaments to that. So I want to thank you all. I'll pass off the microphone to Dana Credo. Dana is our Healing Arts coordinator, and her and Summer have really been carrying the ALK-tALK and Healing Arts program this year. So many of you know about this calendar. This will be going on since October 2020. The ALK-tALKs on Sunday typically get the majority of the eyeballs, but we have so many programs during the month that you can make connections with other ALK patients. And the mental health part of our disease affects a lot of us. And most of us do not know other ALK patients to speak to, but we have our own Zoom room, which is the same Zoom room you just came in on. And this is a calendar that Dan has worked on and put together. So I don't know if Dan, you can speak.
Yeah,
up.
no, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So as we say, like the ones that say explore with writing, please just email us because that's a closed group. It's just not a drop-in group. The other groups are all drop-in. I highly suggest that we've really worked hard on trying to get things that kind of fit you, like what your needs are. If you don't have a partner and you're having to, you're single and you have to be on this journey by yourself. If you're under 50, young alkies, new alkies, if you're just brand new to this journey, it's really finding that connection with people that you can really share with and help you feel stronger and more educated and just be able to go through this journey much better. And then there's things like book club is just touching base with somebody along with ALK chat. Guided imagery is amazing. We just recently learned about birds and how they're really healing to us. And I've been listening to going out in nature and listening to bird sounds and finding out what birds are in my neighborhood. It's just great. I mean, this is just like, and I run Death Cafe, which is more talking about living. So it's like, talk about these things that are on your mind, get them out of your mind, and then you can live every day for all it's worth. So don't let the name scare you. I really encourage everybody to come. Please share with your partner, your care partner, to please come to the care partner check-in. I think it's vital that we support our care partners. So if you're having, if your care partner is maybe struggling a little bit, have them come to that meeting and talk to fellow care partners. I'm hoping to see everybody in a square soon, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you, everybody, Kirk, Nancy, and Dana. I know Summer and Yvonne popped off already, but thank you, everyone. Emily, I see your face up there. Thank you. And we'll see you at the end of the month. All right. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.